who live in my neighborhood are proud. This project really brought a sense of neighborhood pride in terms of how much it's dressed up the neighborhood, the landscaping, the street lighting, the nice wide boulevard sidewalks. And then, on top of that, it's really friendly to all kinds of transportation users. So it works if you're in a car, if you're on foot, if you're riding your bike. It's very friendly to all forms of transportation, as well as transit.
The question has always been, when are we going to get the 4 lanes out to Waynesville? And now it's done. Everybody's happy with it. I have not got one call complaining about it.
The state with the largest rate of population growth in the last 10 years is Nevada.
At the buzzer, the basket is good, but it won't matter. Sparks wins the championship. 53 to 48 in overtime. What a huge win for the Rail City kids.
We've got to make sure that we've got enough police on the streets, and we're working very hard on our budget now to make sure that we can do that. Same with firemen. We need to protect our citizens against fire and crime with our police department.
1.110
of the Sparks City Charter.
The Sparks City Charter.
On behalf of the City of Sparks and the Sparks City Council, I want to welcome you to Turkey Trot 2010. Happy Thanksgiving!
So, are more cuts on the way, or are we starting to balance out? We're going to take a look at the fiscal year ahead for the city of Sparks.
But our challenge is not to make a profit, but to deliver the best services we can. And there simply isn't a profit motive in government, other than the smiles of a child or the feelings of a family who have had a police officer respond and resolve something, which is the most important thing we do. And so it's in that context that we have to make tough choices. We don't have the revenues we need to operate this city. The last few years have been very difficult on our organization. We're down some 29% of our workforce, which means we've had to make the tough choices.
So I can tell you it's not very often that we get to make everybody happy, but in this case we did. That includes the neighbors, it includes me, and thank you to everybody who helped us get it done. I appreciate it.
I think that the whole concept of City of Sparks and our tours of marketing and what we do for attracting visitors in the area and visitor type development is obviously something we have to continue developing throughout the city. It's been a history of who we are, special events. They love to come to downtown Sparks because we do events right. They have a good feeling when they're here. It's safe. It's family friendly, and it goes again to the way we do things in Sparks.
And I want to thank the Sparks voters also, and the voters of Washoe County, because when they voted for RTC5, that's where the funds came from. And everybody knows it's about money right now. And it just goes to show you, if you explain something well enough to the voters, they're smart enough to say, you know what, that is a good deal.
That's my main concern right now, is just to see how we can, and I've seen some good changes so far, is provide a high level of service to our customers from the city standpoint, and our customers are the people who are the small business owners.
Absolutely. We've got, of course, we've got a whole bunch of things that are working together. It's the branding, it's redevelopment, and it's construction projects that we have going in the city of Sparks that aren't going on anywhere else.
For us right now, it's an economic issue. Every place that we can conserve energy, and the best dollar saved is a dollar of energy that was never spent. And so if we can do more conservation projects, if we can do more in terms of investing in solar, investing in energy efficiency programs out at the water treatment facility.
It's our responsibility to develop our city, to develop the type of industry we want to be in, and what we want the city to look like in the next century. And so economic development is very, very important. We need to decide what type of industry we want to bring on in, not leave that to other people to go and decide as we've done in the past, but take a very active role in that. And, I think we can do it.
Our people need to get back to work. We need to work as a city to get out of the way, to make it easier for businesses to come.
The city of Sparks had some good ideas. Then we with the RTC collaborated, and the result is this great addition to the community.
I foresee it being slow, but I think we'll come back a little bit and start growing again. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for being here. I appreciate it.
This is the sixth time I've had the privilege of addressing the citizens of this great city. On behalf of the City of Sparks, I want to extend my appreciation to all our residents for their continued support of our city, particularly during some of the most difficult economic times on record. Today I want to briefly recap the challenges your city has faced and the continued challenges that your city must confront in the months and years to come. But first of all, I'd like to introduce some people in the audience. First, our City Council. And if you could hold your applause till I've introduced everybody, please. Julia Ratty is here from Ward 1, Ed Lawson from Ward 2, Ron Smith from Ward 3, Mike Kerrigan from Ward 4, City Manager Sean Carey, a few department heads, Dan Marin from Purchasing, Jeff Kronk is here from Finance, always a pleasure to have his input, Neil Kreutz from Community Services, Fire Chief Andy Flock is here, so glad to have you, Andy. Some of our boards and commissioners, Jack Byram from our advisory committee, Morris Canwins from the Civil Service Commission, and our attorney is here also, Chet Adams. Chet, thank you so much for being here. Also from the Legends, we have Dennis McGovern. Thank you, Dennis. And from our chambers, Lenny Stevens and Trey Abney. Thanks. I also want to pay tribute to our congressional delegation in Washington, D.C. Senator Reed, Senator Ensign, Congressman Heller, Congresswoman Berkeley, and Congressman Hecht have worked tirelessly for Nevada, and Sparks in particular. The city manager and I recently returned from our nation's capital and were afforded some time with each one of them. I am proud to say that they are all acutely familiar with our needs here at home, particularly to infrastructure issues such as the Regional Flood Project. Each one is committed to supporting us in any way they can, whether by a letter or phone call to a federal agency to help get things done or finding appropriations during these tough times. The city is blessed to have a special relationship with our representatives in Washington. I appreciate their service to our state and nation. We also welcome Governor Sandoval to office and recognize the difficult work that lies ahead for him and our entire state legislature this year. I'm grateful for the service and commitment of our state leaders. And of course, my acknowledgments would not be complete if I didn't recognize Coach Chris Ault and the entire Wolfpack football season. What a season it was for them. They brought us much pride and unity to our community, and it comes at a great time. I also want to congratulate Coach Albright and the women's Wolfpack basketball team for their 20-win season, the first in the history of the program. I think it's wonderful. As we begin the second decade of the 21st century, I can't help but reflect on the last 10 years. Our nation began the century with unimaginable terror in 2001, and the events of 9/11 continued to impact our lives today. We witnessed the loss of another space shuttle and 7 astronauts just minutes from returning to Earth. Over the course of the last decade, our planet has experienced a multitude of natural and man-made disasters, as well as a flood event here in 2005. Our nation entered 2 wars to protect our freedoms and securities here at home. Many of our troops made the ultimate sacrifice, including some right here in Sparks. We honor them with every brick we lay and seed we sow, and give thanks to them and their families. Despite the many tragedies, we witnessed a few scenes that lifted our spirits, such as the successful water landing of U.S. Airways jet and the rescue of 33 Chilean miners. Technology and social media tools have reunited us with old friends and relatives and have brought the world closer together. And in 2008, our nation celebrated the inauguration of the first African American president. And in the popular culture, I was very disappointed that I did not make it to the top 10 of American Idol last season. Here at home, the first decade of the new century was filled with growth and prosperity. In 2000, the city's population was nearly 66,000. In 2010, Sparks can boast a population of more than 92,000. Our city grew in population by 36%. Today, I'm very pleased to report that our population, unlike the state and many Nevada cities, increased 1.2% over the last year. That's a little good news for today. We saw dramatic growth in residential home construction. More than 100 permits a month were issued during the peak years as Sparks grew to the east and northeast. And today, Sparks has more than 2 million square feet of commercial development compared to a decade ago. The days of traveling west to shop and dine have come to an end. As the Great Recession began to set in, the Sparks City team enhanced our quality of life with the opening of the Larry D. Johnson Community Center, the Golden Eagle Regional Park, and the Whitewater Park at Rock Park, just to name a few. The RTC opened Centennial Plaza, and with their help, the final stretch of Vista Boulevard was widened from Los Altos to Wingfield Springs. And a blighted area to the east of the Sparks Marina was filled with a unique shopping and dining destination like no other in the region. We have more bike paths and pedestrian trails and some of the best recreation programs in the state, including a world-class softball program. 2010 was a year of accomplishments for the city. The city's new advisory committee contributed valuable feedback and suggested a priority of city services to help us craft a new budget. Our volunteer efforts increased this year as we embarked on a citizen volunteer program to help fill a void in our code enforcement functions. The fire department's Project Safe helped install nearly 1,000 smoke alarms in older Sparks homes. The Parks and Recreation Department had 800 volunteer hours with the Adopt a Park program. We had a successful busing program for special events, with the buses wrapped in the new city's branding elements. We completed improvements on Victorian Avenue, marking the first complete street concept in Sparks. And we invested $1.2 million in Victorian Square enhancements, paving the way for future development. Our police department reduced their response time for Priority 1 calls from an average of 11 minutes to 7 minutes. And last year, our Youth Watch program served nearly 1,000 children in preschool through 7th grade. The sports complex at Golden Eagle Regional Park hosted more than 1,000 adult and youth teams for practice, games, and tournaments. Additionally, the facility was booked solid with softball tournaments and about 2,000 teams playing ball in 2010, bringing millions to the local economy. Our city attorney assisted nearly 1,300 victims of domestic violence and was successful in defending the city against 8 civil lawsuits that could have claimed more than $30 million. We have made progress on the flood project in Sparks, particularly the North Truckee Drain. Realizing that the Nevada Department of Transportation was repaving the Sparks Boulevard exit ramp on I-80, which crossed a portion of the drain, we acted quickly to construct draining infrastructure ahead of its scheduled time, saving thousands of dollars in construction costs. And a new joint powers authority was recently approved that will help us implement a regional rate structure, enabling the necessary funding we need to move forward on this priority project. These are just a few snapshots of success stories in Sparks from last year. To our city team, we thank you. Whether you are a planner or engineer, a project manager or a recreation specialist, a maintenance worker or an equipment operator, a police officer or a firefighter, we owe you all a debt of gratitude. Great things occurred in Sparks last decade. I mean great things. Every year I have stood before you to celebrate our many accomplishments. But today I want to spend some time talking about our challenges. Midway through this decade, our city, state, and nation and the rest of the world began to experience a deep global recession, one that continues today. While a recovery is beginning to appear on the horizon nationally, I want to be clear to our residents that here locally, a recovery has not begun to occur in Sparks. Development remains at a virtual standstill, and state unemployment is hovering close to 15%, higher than 1 year ago, and the highest unemployment rate in the nation. In 2010, no new single-family lots were created in the city of Sparks. Let me put the dramatic slowdown of building into perspective. Sparks has now more than 2,200 lots in inventory waiting for homes to be constructed. If those lots are developed at the same rate as the last 2 years, it will take more than 12 years to deplete the inventory of vacant lots. Property tax revenue is expected to drop in fiscal year 2011 by 14% from where it peaked in fiscal year 2009. The decline in property values is at the point where it is extremely unlikely to return to the levels achieved during the housing boom. In fact, citywide assessed value has declined almost 25% from the peak in 2009 at nearly $3 billion to $2.2 billion in 2011. Fiscal year 2011 consolidated taxes, or C-tax, primarily consisting of sales taxes, is expected to drop nearly 36% from its peak year in fiscal year 2006. City business licenses and permits peaked in fiscal year 2007 and are expected to drop nearly 23% in the current fiscal year from that peak year. The city's current year general fund revenue, which is comprised primarily of C-tax, property taxes, license, and permits, is expected to drop 16% from the peak period of fiscal year 2007, just 4 short years ago. To meet the increasing challenges of decreasing revenue, the city has had to reduce its expenses. Much of it has come from reducing the city's workforce through attrition, buyout programs, and the very, very painful task of layoffs. In fiscal year 2007, we had 644 full-time city employees. Today we have 462 employees, a decrease of nearly 30%. Sparks is currently at 2005 spending levels and at staffing levels of more than a decade ago. Last year, I spoke at length that the city must do some soul-searching and identifying core services that are priorities and required to serve our citizens. Our city team is doing just that. For 4 years, the city of Sparks has responded to unprecedented and severe fiscal challenges, stubborn challenges that have forced us to either create a sustainable organization or face dire consequences. We are charting a course that will take us down a more realistic path in order to provide essential services with appropriate resources to meet the needs and safety of our residents. We simply can no longer be all things to all people. We have real structural budget problems that continue to exist. So what has this meant to our citizens? When it comes to our police force, it means it will take a little more time to respond. We just don't have enough officers for a city our size. Sparks police officers are routinely responding to an increasing number of community-generated calls for service and have limited time for routine patrol and other proactive policing strategies. This is not to suggest that our city is unsafe, because Sparks is a safe city. Our law enforcement officers are truly some of the best in the state and nation and have been very successful when it comes to investigating and solving crimes. The city's team of firefighters is smaller also. Our 3-person crews are capable of responding to most emergencies, but must wait for a second engine to arrive in a fire emergency in order to attack an interior blaze. Aging equipment and the need for capital replacements such as self-contained breathing apparatus present challenges that lie ahead for our fire department. While our firefighters can still respond quickly to emergencies, it is difficult for them to manage more than one major crisis at a time. Our newly formed Community Service Department continues to confront dwindling resources. Despite an increasing number of vacant and foreclosed properties, the city's sole code enforcement officer can only respond to a limited number of complaints. It should be no surprise to our residents that it has become increasingly difficult to stay on top of our community's appearance. The city's building permit and planning counters are now open to the public only on Wednesdays and Fridays. This, coupled with much reduced ability to answer and return phone calls, has reduced customer service. Public facilities are aging, and the ability to provide preventative maintenance has become very difficult. In 1985, Sparks had 222,000 square feet of facilities and 4 facility maintenance workers. Today, the city maintains 740,000 square feet of facilities with 1 facility maintenance worker. To put this into perspective, imagine you alone maintaining 370 homes the size of 2,000 square feet each. Additionally, the city's vehicle fleet is aging, and our crews cannot provide an acceptable level of preventative maintenance. At its peak in 1985, we had 51 traffic signals and 3.5 electricians to maintain them. Today, the city has 115 signals and only 2 electricians, which translates to more time reacting to maintenance issues than providing preventative maintenance. Also in 1985, the City of Sparks had 368 paved lane miles and 14 street maintenance workers. Today, the city has 665 paved lane miles and 6 street maintenance workers. And it may not come as a surprise to some that our parks are not as well maintained as in the past years. At our peak, we had 42 park maintenance workers taking care of 420 developed acres of parks. Last year, we had 19 park maintenance workers and 583 acres of parks. And while we have kept intact most of our recreation programs, a 29% decrease in full-time staff has presented challenges in maintaining service and programming levels that help enhance the quality of life in Sparks. Our city attorney's office and municipal court also have challenges with a lack of adequate staff, creating delays and increasing wait times to hear and process criminal and civil cases. These examples are the true meaning of doing more with less. The City of Sparks is retooling and overhauling our organization. Our executive staff is smaller. To date, we have combined 2 city departments, Public Works and Community Development. Later this year, we will close City Works, where both departments reside, and relocate staff to City Hall in the city's corporate yard, realizing a savings of close to $300,000. We are currently reviewing city services to privatize and zeroing in on functions that are no longer essential or have outlived their purpose. In an effort to focus on our core services, the City Council, with the help of the Sparks team, is currently eliminating some city activities that drain resources and provide no value. Whether it is eliminating certain reports or simplifying procedures, the city will begin to pursue a few priorities to respond to new demands in this economic climate. An important fiscal challenge our organization continues to face is labor costs. Our revenue declines have outpaced our efforts to reduce these costs. Even with the tremendous strides in labor cost reductions, our revenue stream is simply not in balance with what we have to pay our employees. While the city's finances are stable in the current fiscal year, we know the next fiscal year, again, bringing us a budget shortfall. We currently expect a gap of about $4.6 million. That is why I am asking the city's bargaining groups to step up, as they have in the past, and continue to have a positive and productive dialogue on reducing wages and/or benefits to meet a sustainable spending goal for labor. We can no longer kick the can down the road for future officials to deal with. We must put into place a permanent solution for our labor costs. I realize that pay and benefits for public employees have been a topic of discussion in the news lately. Public employees are easy targets to blame for government problems these days, and in some cases it may be justified. But here in Sparks, I can assure our residents that our city employees are some of the most dedicated and hardest working men and women I have ever been associated with. And I come from the private sector, so I know how hard people work. It is also important for our residents to recognize that Sparks has safeguards in place to prevent the kind of abuse of overtime that we have all heard and read lately in our local governments. Our employees deserve respect and admiration for their dedication to this community. Many of them have made tremendous sacrifices, not just to protect their jobs, but to protect the jobs of their colleagues. Many of these men and women are raising families right here in Sparks, and they too are victims of this recession. I appreciate the difficult choices our employees have made and will continue to have to make. I applaud the city's executive team along with our professional, mid-management, technical, and confidential employees who have so far all given up 7.5% of their pay and or benefits permanently. Nobody likes the budget-cutting process, but these are the times in which we live, and we must learn to adjust. Again, I call on our bargaining groups to come to the table and help us save jobs and create a sustainable organization. We must make the tough decisions now or face dire consequences across all levels of the organization in the future. The fact is, we will not be able to maintain last year's service levels if concessions are not reached. Until we see economic stabilization, we will continue to streamline and reduce our costs with whatever it takes to meet the fiscal challenges in order to provide the necessary services our residents depend upon. As I speak to you this morning, the state legislature is currently in session. I do not envy the position of our state legislators. The state's budget shortfall is estimated to be $3 billion. We remain concerned, however, that some legislators may be determined to raid local government accounts to offset the state deficit. Important accounts that are dedicated for critical city services such as sewer, flood control, and even redevelopment could be in jeopardy. Funds that are generated locally by city and county residents should stay here. The use of locally produced funds should be decided by our local elected officials, not legislators in Carson City. We know the best use when it comes to administering locally produced dollars. I have met with and will continue to meet and talk with mayors of Nevada's major cities. Together, we are working to ensure that our legislators are keenly aware of any impact that revenue diversion will have on local municipalities. We have recently met with Governor Sandoval, who I believe understands the potential crisis that revenue grabs could have on city governments. Similar to Sparks, the state must undertake retooling and overhaul of its own organization. Our state's tax structure needs serious reform. We can no longer be dependent on property and sales tax accounting for nearly 2/3 of our operating revenue. But the city cannot enact the kinds of radical changes that are required to sustain our local governments. This is the constitutional role of our state government. The private sector and all levels of government must together do a better job of creating jobs. This is the root of the problem in this recession. Everyone agrees that we cannot progress and move forward in this economy without jobs. We have been successful over the years with local economic development agencies and our chambers of commerce. But I do believe the time has come to speak with a more united voice and have the appropriate economic development structure in place that prevents potential conflicts or perceived competitiveness of other agencies. Sparks has a role in economic development too, although at this time we have no dedicated staff to perform this role. But we all know if we make Sparks the best place to do business, businesses will make their mark in Sparks. They can set up shop here, hire our workers, pay decent wages, and invest in the future of our city and region. As these discussions take place, we will be at the table. I believe, too, that special events are a catalyst to economic development, particularly in our redevelopment areas. Throughout the last decade, we have expanded our special events, which are bigger and more popular than ever. The fact is, today, we are known for our events, attracting more than 1 million people annually to Victoria Square. Our events have created an image of Sparks as a place where it's happening. Over time, bringing the right kind of events to Sparks will help us earn our brand image and tagline. It's happening here. Today I want to address the continued chatter on the issue of consolidation, my favorite subject. In November 2010, Washoe County Question 2 read as follows. Should the separate local governments of Reno and Washoe County pursue a consolidation of the two governments if such consolidation can be shown to reduce costs and or improve service? In my view, Question 2 was a leading question. In reality, the language should have had the nod of nearly every resident in the county. I ask you, who wouldn't want to pursue consolidation if it actually was determined to reduce costs or improve services? While Question 2 passed last November, only 54% of voters approved the language countywide, and a majority in the unincorporated county voted against it. It is true that the city of Sparks was not included in the question, though our residents still had the opportunity to be heard, and more than a majority voted against the question as well. We spent a lot of time last year educating the public on the virtues of consolidation from our perspective. I understand why this remains a discussion during this difficult economic climate, but we have been down this path time and time again. The city of Sparks has studied the subject many times over. The reality is consolidation of governments is not a common occurrence and results in more failed attempts than successful efforts. We know that no cost savings can be passed on to our residents by consolidating with another government. The idea that bigger government is a more efficient government is wrong. The city of Sparks remains in a position, being closest to Sparks residents, to be the most efficient because we are the most accountable. Our costs are less than Reno and Washoe County, particularly when it comes to public safety. We certainly support efficiencies and shared services wherever possible to save our residents hard-earned tax dollars. But our strength is our ability to have 100% oversight of city funds spent on city services. Let me be crystal clear this year as I was last year. The Sparks City Council and I are committed to maintaining the city of Sparks as a full-service city by providing the necessary community service and public safety, which include police and firefighting services. If Washoe County and the city of Reno want to merge and they truly see a cost benefit, then they should become one. Sparks is not interested. While we are working hard to keep costs down, we have also been successful in environmental conservation through the city's sustainability plan. We recently completed the Sparks Police Department photovoltaic canopies in the parking lot that will generate more than 1/3 of the 800 kilowatts of energy used in the police department building. The suspended panels provide protection for police vehicles while maximizing space in the parking lot and saving thousands of dollars a year in electricity costs. The city of Sparks has been advancing its sustainability efforts wherever possible. In addition to constructing solar panels, the city is making more environmentally conscious changes to existing buildings, roadways, and service vehicles. Sparks' traffic signals are lit using LED energy conserving lights, and crosswalks and school zone signals are illuminated using solar panel energy. LED lights also help us reduce maintenance costs, and I appreciate the efforts of our city team in moving this program forward. And just last year, more than $500,000, twice more than 4 years ago, was received from grants, resident solicitations, and foundations to support unfunded programs for the Parks Department, thereby keeping many important recreation programs alive. Programming for people with disabilities, children, and seniors would not be possible without the support of the E.L. Cord Foundation, the Nell J. Redfield Corp Foundation, and the community groups like Sertoma Club of Sparks. I want to thank Shields for their continued support. Shields is the title sponsor for two important events in Sparks, the annual Turkey Trot and the Kids Triathlon, two favorite family fun events that promote fitness and tradition in our city. I applaud our Parks team for working hard to obtain these funds and am grateful to individuals and groups that made this possible. And I do feel it is important to applaud the City's Council decision last month to remove the Truckee River Canyon corridor from our sphere of influence. While most governments are reluctant to pull back on their jurisdiction's boundary, we made a financially sound decision after it was determined that it was not feasible to provide city services to this area. This may be the first time in the state's history a decision of this magnitude has ever been made. I particularly want to applaud the Sparks City Manager for his dedication to Sparks. Sean has a record of operating the City of Sparks in an efficient and effective manner, putting the needs of taxpayers first. I appreciate the difficult decisions he and his executive team have had to endure over the last several months. One thing I have always appreciated about Sean is his philosophy of creating a work environment that fosters innovation and autonomy in our city team. As a result, our employees have brought many good ideas to the table that have reduced costs and improved services along the way. Innovation does not occur in a zero-risk environment. Learning from mistakes is a key element in the innovation process. I encourage our employees to experiment, test ideas, and fix problems and mistakes along the way. Before I close, I want to point out a few people who have given a great deal of their time to the city. Our City Council has had to make many difficult decisions during the past year. I appreciate Julia Ratty's service on the city's Parks and Recreation Commission and the Board of Health and legislative team, to name a few. I am also grateful for Julia's strong interest in health and human services issues. She has been a strong advocate for our residents. Thanks, Julia. Councilman Ed Lawson is the council's newest member and has wasted no time helping to make Sparks great. He serves on the Regional Planning Governing Board and a trustee for the Washoe County Senior Services Board. Ed also supports the city's Advisory Committee for the Disabled. It is always good to have a new and fresh perspective, and we all look forward to working alongside Mr. Lawson. Thanks, Ed. Mayor Pro Tem and Councilman Ron Smith is a busy man these days. He is serving on a number of boards and commissions. He is chairman of the Regional Transportation Commission and the chairman of the Truckee Meadows Flood Authority. These are two critical organizations that Sparks has an important stake in and has invested a lot of time and resources. Ron is also the chairman of the Redevelopment Agency. I appreciate Mr. Smith's interest in ensuring Sparks' infrastructure is prepared to meet current and future needs. Thanks, Ron. Councilman Mike Kerrigan is the veteran on the City Council, and I don't mean Navy veteran. Mike has served on the Council for more than a decade. Mr. Kerrigan has worked tirelessly on water issues and currently serves as chair of the Truckee Meadows Water Authority and chair of the Western Regional Water Commission. Councilman Kerrigan is also chairman of the Regional Planning Governing Board and was just appointed to represent us on the Reno Sparks Convention and Visitors Authority. I want to thank Mike for his dedication to Sparks. Thanks, Mike. And finally, I appreciate Councilman Ron Schmidt's continued leadership as chairman of the city's Tourism and Marketing Committee. Mr. Schmidt has worked hard helping to lead the city's branding campaign. Additionally, his advocacy for Sparks on the Regional Shared Services Committee has helped to ensure Sparks has a voice when it comes to sharing public services when they bring efficiencies, but not merely for the sake of sharing consolidating. Just like the PAC's miraculous comeback from Boise State on that cold November night last year, Sparks will come back too. And like the PAC, we are underdogs. But you all know everyone loves an underdog. I appreciate and care about our residents very much. They are, in fact, part of the city team, too. We have had hundreds of residents step up and offer a helping hand, whether it is a resident helping a disabled or elderly neighbor remove snow from their yard, helping with administrative tasks here at City Hall, or serving on our many boards and commissions. You are all part of the team. You make a difference. With the right plans in place, a lot of hard work, patience, and support from our residents, we will continue to be that special city in Nevada where pride and tradition runs deep in the Truckee Meadows. I said this last year, and I am compelled to say it again. Despite the economic difficulties that have been thrust upon us, we still live in a wonderful city, in a great state, in the strongest nation on the face of the earth. I continue to ask our residents to volunteer their time and talents in the city of Sparks. And I respectfully ask us all to take care of the appearances of our homes and neighborhoods in our community. Thank you again for your time today, and don't forget to use our website, www.cityofsparks.us, and follow us on Facebook and Twitter. And I didn't introduce two people who are very dear to me, which I forgot at first, but I'd like to introduce my wife, Ruth, and my mother, Irma. Thank you for being here. In closing, I just want to say God bless all of you, God bless the city of Sparks, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you.